At the start of 2022, Vince McMahon was still fully in charge of WWE Creative, which would not be the case by the time the year was out. I'd love to say that he was fully gone by the end of the year, but we all know it was a lot more complicated than that. That said, even with all the madness going on behind the scenes, WWE were able to crank out some cracking matches regardless of who was in control. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 best WWE matches of 2022. Join us. Number 10, Roman Reigns vs Logan Paul at Crown Jewel. It speaks volumes to how up and down 2022 was that YouTuber Logan Paul, being an incredible wrestler, was only like the 4th or 5th mental thing that happened all year. The influencer made his WWE debut at WrestleMania 38, teaming up with The Miz to take on the Mysterios. He then fought Miz one-on-one at SummerSlam before eyeing up in just his 3rd ever professional match, an undisputed Universal Championship title match in Saudi Arabia against Roman Reigns. Nobody expected Paul to actually win this match, but equally nobody expected the rookie to be able to hang with someone on Roman's level on such a big stage. He lasted nearly 25 minutes against the tribal chief, who also deserves plenty of credit for playing his part, showing off his incredible acrobatic skills and impressive grasp of wrestling psychology, even scoring an amazing near fall on the champ with his one lucky punch. He didn't walk away with the title, obviously, but he put on such a great showing that maybe he was the real winner after all. Except he wasn't, obviously. Roman Reigns was the winner. Logan did well, though. Number 9, Seth Rollins vs Austin Theory vs Bobby Lashley at Survivor Series War Games. Following the aforementioned McMahon resignation, the new powers that be were left with an Austin Theory-shaped dilemma. The young man had been made Mr. Money in the Bank, but was nowhere near the level needed to think he even had a minuscule chance of taking the belts away from Roman Reigns. So how did they get around this? Well, dear viewer, by having Theory cash in on United States champion Seth Rollins and lose. Fantastic stuff. Thankfully, A-Town Down was able to course correct somewhat by having an amazing 3-way match with Rollins and Bobby Lashley at Survivor Series. On paper, this trio made for the perfect mixture of strength, speed, agility, and character dynamics to produce something excellent, and thankfully, that is exactly what happened. The combatants involved made excellent use of their environments, playing off each other to generate some truly unique spots. Take Rollins jumping off of Theory's back to land a super duper curb stomp onto Lashley. How often have you seen that before? Theory would get his win back after a misjudged spear from Lashley to win the Star-Spangled Belt. Was this enough to erase the humiliation of his failed cash-in? No, nothing ever could be, but at least he tried. Number 8, Bianca Belair vs Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 38 Night 1. At SummerSlam 2021, Becky Lynch made her surprise return from maternity leave to a huge babyface pop, only to immediately turn heel by beating SmackDown Women's Champion Bianca Belair in just 26 seconds. After a run with the SmackDown belt turned into a run with the Raw belt, it's complicated, Charlotte Flair was there, don't ask, Big Time Bex found that her past had become her future as she was scheduled to face Belair for the title at WrestleMania 38. Bet you're regretting that handshake now, eh, Becky? With considerably longer than 26 seconds to play with, both women were able to stretch their legs and prove why they are so damn good at this whole wrestling malarkey. After great near falls, huge bumps, and Becky doing unspeakable things to her opponent's braid, Bianca flipped out of a manhandle slam to hit a wicked KOD and finally get some payback. A war of attrition between two women at the very top of their respective games, fighting to secure the top prize in their division. And yet, somewhat shamefully, we've ranked it lower than number 7, Johnny Knoxville vs Sami Zayn at WrestleMania 38 Night 2. Yep, it's the Jackass match. I'm so sorry, Becky and Bianca, but I had to go with my heart. After it was announced that actor and professional piss-taker Johnny Knoxville would be competing in the 2022 Royal Rumble, Sami Zayn took exception to an outsider getting involved in the business. The two spent months at each other's throats, with Zayn crashing the Jackass Forever movie premiere and Knoxville costing Sami the Intercontinental Championship. Doesn't seem like a proportional response, but never mind. Finally, at WrestleMania 38, the pair squared off in an anything goes match where it really did feel like anything could happen. Right then, here's a brief rundown of just some of the insane things that went on between the bells. Knoxville went through a table, Sami got splatted by a giant hand, Jackass member Wee Man performed the biggest WrestleMania body body slam since Hogan and Andre, and then came the finish, where Knoxville pinned Zayn for the win via an oversized mousetrap. Anyway, this was a whole heap of fun, and anyone who didn't enjoy it needs to lighten the flip up. Number 6, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. After months, nay years of their endless feud clogging up the main events, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar were finally done with each other when Reigns beat the Beast at WrestleMania 38, until they weren't. Seemingly because they run out of full-timers for Roman to face, Brock was brought back to challenge for the undisputed title at SummerSlam with a last man standing stipulation tacked on in an attempt to make things a bit more interesting. As it turns out, they didn't need fancy rules to do that. All they needed was agricultural equipment. Looking like if old MacDonald started reading online conspiracy theories, Brock rolled into the arena on an enormous tractor complete with front loader. The machine would play a key role in the match, including being used to lift up the damn ring, which is one of the maddest sights in WWE history. The love child of Bob the Builder and Mad Max heightened everything around this wild brawl as champion and challenger went to extreme lengths to keep each other down for the count. Roman finally won after burying Brock beneath a pile of rubble, bringing this live-action disaster movie to a close. Number 5, Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle. For the first time in 19 years, WWE staged a pay-per-view on British shores with a tantalizing match topping the bill. Roman Reigns would be defending his undisputed Universal Championship against hometown boy Drew McIntyre, despite the fact that Cardiff, where the show was held, is 357 miles away from where Drew is actually from. Triple H, who had only recently become head booker, did a great job in building Drew up as a credible threat, and with a sort of native crowd behind him, support for the Scotsman was sky high. What followed was a brilliantly plotted sports entertainment headliner. The action started slow and built gradually over time, getting more and more intense as the minutes ticked by and the wrestlers' big shots all missed the mark. The apex of the drama came when McIntyre looked to have the match won, only for a hooded figure to break up the counts. This was the main roster debut of the Bloodline's newest member, Solo Sikoa. Reigns had cheesed another win, and the British fans had received a great show closer, if you don't count the weird Tyson Fury karaoke part, that is. Number 4, the Bloodline versus Team Sheamus at Survivor Series War Games. The second Vince McMahon was out the door, Triple H took the opportunity to break out his favorite toy set that his mean old father-in-law wouldn't let him play with. This was War Games. Sorry, that should be War Games! At the 2022 Survivor Series, for the first time ever, this legendary WCW creation featured on a main roster WWE show, and whilst the women's match opening the night was very good, it was never going to compete with this. On one side, you had Roman Reigns, the Usos, Solo Sikoa, and honorary Us Sami Zayn, squaring off against the Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre, and Kevin Owens. That is a lot of people with a lot of history together, and all of it was on show in this emotional affair. The high point of the story came when Zayn was forced to choose between his new family and his old frenemy, eventually siding with the Bloodline to hand them the match and finally be accepted wholeheartedly into the group. All this came after nearly 40 minutes of cage-based violence, giving fans that had never seen War Games before a great first impression. Number 3, the Usos versus the Street Profits at Money in the Bank. Well, this was a pleasant surprise, wasn't it? As they were usually caught up in all the Bloodline goings-on, Jimmy and Jey Uso didn't really get a chance to shine as a proper tag team in 2022, with the notable exception of this sleeper hit from Money in the Bank. Their opponents for the undisputed Tag Team Championships were the Street Profits, a strong match for the Samoan siblings on paper. However, wrestling matches aren't fought on paper, they are fought in the ring. Luckily, these two teams are really good in the ring as well. They were clearly told to go out and have a barnstormer as they were allotted 23 minutes, and they more than delivered on this remit, putting on a performance that harkened back to the Usos' old rivalry with the New Day. Jimmy and Jay's reign wasn't as secure as Roman's, so there was a very real chance that the belts could have have changed hands here, which only drew the crowd further into the excellent action. The Usos did eventually pick up the win, but only after one of the best main roster tag matches in quite some time. Number 2, Gunther versus Sheamus at Clash at the Castle. The other hometown hero present at Clash at the Castle was the Celtic warrior Sheamus, despite the fact that Cardiff is a 3.5-hour ferry ride away from where Sheamus is from. His opponent on the night was Gunther, who might as well have also been British based on WWE's geography, and the prize was the Intercontinental title. From the moment Ludwig Kaiser announced before the match that Giovanni Vinci had rejoined Imperium, fans knew that this was going to be special. Everybody was aware that the Austrian was a bruiser, but some fans had been sleeping on Sheamus for quite some time. Here, he showed us all what he was made of, going toe-to-toe with Der Ring General, matching his famous chops and strikes with brutal-looking offense of his own. Though he didn't get his mitts on Gunther's shiny buckle, Sheamus had just had the match of his career, something that he will be remembered for long after he's hung up his brogues. This was a spectacle unlike anything the main roster had seen in a long while, but there was one other match that had just that little something extra. Number 1, Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell used to be a match that felt truly dangerous, but that fear factor had been missing for a while by 2022. And then, Cody Rhodes' boob exploded. Rhodes, who had returned to the promotion at WrestleMania 38, was set to face Seth Rollins in the pair's third straight pay-per-view clash. Boring, some fans said. Been there, done that. And then, Cody's boob exploded. The American Nightmare tore his pectoral muscle whilst in the gym, leading everyone to assume that the match was off. Cody, though, being the mad bastard that he is, said no and competed inside the cell with a chest that looked like a banana after being dropped down the stairs. Say what you will about whether or not Rhodes should have competed that night, but you can't deny that it didn't elevate everything that went down. Rollins did amazingly well to work around his opponent's injury, even incorporating it into the match, which just made everything feel that bit more dangerous. When Cody pinned Seth, a legend was born. This is the match that made him a WWE megastar, and all because, say it with me now, his boob exploded.